All right. Thank you to everyone who is able to join us here today. Let's go ahead and get started. So, welcome to HR Automation with eCapital Advisors. We are going to first. I should probably start my video here, like Dokkan just did. So. Awesome. Thank you to everyone who is able to join us. So let's go ahead and get started. We'll introduce Dokkan first, and then get to the agenda here today. So Dokkan.
Hello, everyone. My name is Dokkan. I'm an RPA consultant at eCapital Advisors. And in my day-to-day job, I work with implementing automation solutions using RPA technologies. And I'm just very excited to talk about technology and talk about what is possible and in this dynamic, changing times. And I'm just looking forward to sharing what we can do with you.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks so much, Dokkan. And I'll be moderating today's session, John Hearth with eCapital. I lead our automation sales efforts here. So what that really means is partnering very closely with Dokkan and Michael, another one of our automation leaders, as well as the broader eCapital team, to ensure that your objectives are achieved as our clients. So just really excited for today's session. A few housekeeping items, and what we'll be covering is we will be monitoring the chat feature. So if you do have questions throughout today's session, please by all means feel free to put those into the chat or Q&A, and we'll definitely get those addressed here as well. From an agenda perspective, we're going to keep things light and fun, and first cover why should organizations and specifically HR professionals and leaders, as all of you are, be thinking about automation, partnering more closely with the business and being more strategic. Then, what it is and what are some of those initial use cases, not only within HR, but again, to that strategic business partnering perspective, really where we see human resources going in the future. So should be a great session indeed. One of the questions that we always love to start conversations and discussions with is the one you see here of, if there was a way that we could remove the least favorite part of your day, the least favorite hour, and that could be your own day, your team's day, or even working with the other functional business units and areas, removing the employee's least favorite part of their day and replace it with what you love doing, would you jump at that opportunity? And everyone that we ask this question to says, yes, absolutely. If I could avoid doing whatever I hate and could do the thing that I love, I would absolutely do that. And I think as employees and professionals just across the board, I think we're seeing organizations and employees themselves really asking themselves this question, and being a part of the great reshuffle, resignation, kind of whatever buzzword you want to use around today's talent shortages and challenges. And really where we see things going is that automation is going to be incorporated into all areas of the business moving forward. So what we say, our philosophy is, the goal of automation is to take away those least favorite parts of our day, the mundane things that we hate doing, and empower the employees to really be the best version of themselves, really engage in the work that they're doing, lean in and move the organization forward. So when we start to think or go a little bit deeper, it's okay, what are some of those things that we as professionals or that we hear our colleagues say in other functional areas that we hate doing? And there's a lot of different tasks that we all do day in, day out. Could be managing a team, working on the strategic direction. interacting with our clients, regardless if they're other stakeholders internally or externally, trying to gather data to make decisions, look at performance reviews, email follow-ups with potential candidates, and those folks that we want to have join. So there's a lot on our plates across the board. So while we see automation becoming more a part of our lives, especially within HR and other areas, it's by all means not all encompassing that we're going to lose our job to, some robot or Alexa or Siri, something along those lines. But automation is going to be a key ingredient moving forward and a way for human resources to be more strategic with other parts and areas of the business. So going a little bit deeper, we view automation as the overarching philosophy or idea. And there's several different engines or solutions that organizations can incorporate. One of those being robotic process automation. And this is one of the main engines that we're seeing in today's workforce and organizations implement. So what RPA is, it's a software solution that integrates into our business environment and simulates those employee actions. So what are some of those actions, or where are some of those initial sweet spots? Could be looking at data entry. So you think of having to onboard a new employee and all the various forms and information, getting system access set up, and having to email IT or other areas to make sure they have the correct credentials, then pulling employee files for reports and performance reviews. There's a lot of different things that RPA can be used to help streamline and automate some of those tedious and manual tasks that we do day in, day out. And so what we say is that as long as the process can be mapped, it can be automated. So if we know that you have to log into Workday with set credentials, you always go to the next screen on the HCM and download whatever information or review whatever information, validate whatever data, that all can be automated as well. And where I think human resources in particular can start to become more strategic with other areas of the business is helping solve for some of the talent challenges and shortages that are going on in today's environment. I was at a CPA conference earlier this month, and one of the main themes that I heard several CFOs and finance leaders saying is, I need to find 2 accountants to bring onto the team. I had 2 people leave, or our work's grown. And the other thing that I'm really concerned with is making sure that my controller and senior accounting managers, my 2 best employees, that they always stay happy. They feel empowered. They want to keep coming to work every day without getting burnt out. And where I think human resources can really play a huge role with automation is working with those business leaders to say, hey, you know what? Absolutely agree. It makes sense that we need to, bring on a new accountant or a new salesperson or whatever functional area. But at the same time, in the short interim, let's look at the job descriptions and responsibilities and where the current bottlenecks are, where the existing teams being overworked, and what can we take off of their plate, automate, and make their job easier. And by the way, there's a solution that can do that in just a few weeks. So starting to think differently and maybe even challenging those other business units to say, hey, you know what? We don't necessarily have to spend the overhead and hire 4 new people to come in. We have an existing solution, or there's a solution that is much more cost effective that could accomplish much of those responsibilities that are maybe a high turnover area. And let's have a solution that works 24/7, 365, does not catch COVID or the flu or anything else that may be going around, and let's become more intelligent and streamlined with our internal processes. So, but of course, there's things within human resources that we can look to and automate as well. And of course, these are not all necessarily encompassing, but and Dokkan will touch on a few of these here later as we get into, you know, some specific examples and walkthroughs. But where we're seeing most organizations gravitate towards or have some of these challenges is really in that recruitment and talent management. So having to work fast, have a streamlined and effective recruitment process, staying in contact with potential candidates to make sure that we're not having to reschedule, you know, interviews or going 2.5 weeks without corresponding, because candidates do have a variety of different offers and opportunities available to them. So if we want to stand out and differentiate and capitalize on that talent before our competitors do, we need to make sure that process is streamlined. We'll get into kind of a performance and development example here shortly, but also on the onboarding and exiting process as well is another huge area. So, you know, we've done a ton of work, as I just mentioned, making sure that the talent management and recruitment process is streamlined, but it really shouldn't stop. Those first 90 days and the first impressions to that new employee when they join the organization is key and paramount, as well as they look to stay engaged with us and hopefully make a career with us as an organization. So let's make sure that our onboarding process is streamlined with user credentials, laptop, that any sort of training that we need to go through, the employee is doing, is aware of it, knows how to sign up for, you know, various benefits packages, et cetera. And then on the flip side, when we do have an employee leave and resign their position, you know, let's make sure that we capture everything in the exit interview, that we do shut off their credentials, that we don't continue to pay employees more or less than we should have, you know, based on their resignation date, looking at job satisfaction as well. So a lot of different examples that we could dive deeper into, and happy to do that in one-off conversations. But this should at least paint a really good picture on what are some of those low-hanging fruit areas that we should be thinking about or are challenged with as an organization. I had also mentioned, you know, this being cross-functional. So we do have some other examples here based on other business units and departments that we see automation play very well in, at least initially. Definitely want to draw your attention to the right side of the slide around HR and talent. We had touched on onboarding, but payroll is another big one, and always a fun challenge for organizations, as well as just the data management aspect as well. So these are just kind of 4 initial examples that we would draw you to as good candidates to potentially start your automation journey with. So we've covered quite a bit. So let's kind of get into some customer use cases and some specific use cases that hopefully will make sense to all of you. So H&I and Hearth and Home Technologies is a client of ours. We've been working with them for the past several years in a variety of different capacities, from workforce planning, you know, budgeting and forecasting the business from a finance perspective, but also supporting them with their sales team and automation. So really where this use case started with is Hearth and Home was looking for a way to better enable and empower their sales team to sell more, generate more revenue for the organization. And based on all their different product lines and their clients, is there was just a ton of information that the sales team needed to sift through to prepare presentations, get background on, you know, the customer account that they were going to be meeting with, looking at, you know, historically, is this account up to date on their payment terms? Are they notorious delinquent? What have they purchased in the past from us? What do we know about the main contacts, you know, et cetera, all that information. And it was taking, you know, in some cases, 2, 3, 4 hours for the sales team and salesperson to prepare and gather all this information. Well, through automation, we were actually able to automate and streamline that entire process, that now there's just a click of a button within their CRM that the salesperson goes up, pulls up within their CRM, Hearth and Home Technologies, clicks, you know, run report, the easy button, so to say. And within 15 minutes, that salesperson has in their inbox a PDF report of all the information that they need to know about the client account that they're going to meet with. So all of this information is captured, but it's helped the sales team. But where human resources comes into this now, and where the organization is moving to, is based on all this information, they're actually able to make strategic decisions to benefit the business. So for instance, they decided and looked at shortly after implementing that, hey, you know what, our sales team, how we're set up from a regional geographic perspective doesn't make sense. We actually need to shift our sales territories around and how we define our customers. Now we're starting to see and look at, why is Docon, you know, the top sales rep in the entire organization? What is Docon doing differently that John, Michael, Bob, Sue, whoever, they're not doing? Or what's their performance differences in terms of looking at how well they're doing? So all of that information is now captured, and human resources is interested in saying, okay, this is great. Now we actually have insights to start looking at who should be promoted. How can we coach up the rest of the sales team? And it's that strategic advisement that the finance leaders, IT, human resources, and sales leadership are all working together on moving forward. So a very easy use case that originally started just to help and benefit and enable the salesperson to perform their job better, but huge benefits across the entire organization that's improved and increased employee engagement and morale, of course, as well. So one kind of typical use case we see transitioning here a little bit, going back to the war on talent, and I'm sure many of you are aware of this, but let's just look at an easy example of job postings. So all of a sudden we hear from, let's just continue on with sales, is, hey, we need to hire 2 new, you know, salespeople for Docon's team. Well, with us in HR, our kind of recruitment strategy is looking at and posting the jobs to Indeed, LinkedIn, our own company website, maybe even an external recruiter if we're working with one of those, or any sort of trade specialties we should be looking for, perhaps, whether that's industry specific or niche focused with recruiters, whatever the case may be. So, you know, we have one job description, but we have to post those in many different places. That posting process, of course, is not the same across the board. So all of the clicks and information's nuanced. Some systems require more information, others, you know, less, so on and so forth. And then once we have all those jobs posted, now how are we capturing all the resumes and applicants that are coming across? So we need to have integrations and things set up to with all of those different avenues to whatever HCM system, we're using and capturing as well. In this case, with Workday. Then once all those resumes and information's within Workday and captured, while we have these 2 openings now, how do we sift through all of those resumes, find the best candidates? Many HCM solutions, of course, have that workflow, built out. But in other cases, if those resumes are then, saved somewhere, whether it's in the HCM or maybe the internal database, 6 months down the road where a new role opens up and Dokkan, was not selected for those 2 account executive roles, but maybe it's a better fit for sales operations or account management, whatever the role may be. How do we search our existing database to find that candidate that has already expressed interest and then reach out to them and say, hey, Dokkan, timing didn't work out last time, but we have a great new role that's opened up. And think of the impact that also has to the potential candidate is that if you can create that tailored message and approach through streamlined data and processes, that's immediately going to set yourself, apart. So what we're really saying here is that while you may have, a job posting that goes several areas and then comes into the HCM solution, then there's still work that then we as human resources, talent acquisition, the recruiter, we're not having to do all the manual things to dig through. It's so streamlined that we can then make an impact and quickly review notes, make and include that human touch element. So I know we've covered quite a bit here already. And now I want to turn things over to Dokkan to actually have us look at a few real life. Dokkan, I'll turn it over to you and stop sharing here.
Yeah. Just to echo what John said earlier is that about automation, the possibilities are endless. And one of the questions that we get all the time, can it work with this system? Can it work with that system? But in the slide that we showed, automation can kind of interact and engage with any system out there. So it is a very great tool to just for job posting, employee onboarding, or any kind of like web scraping, like if you need to check candidate's LinkedIn page or anything that sort. But let's go to like a specific use case of onboarding. Let me go ahead and share my screen. Let's say you have a very tedious onboarding process, right? And assume that you have files that each person needs to receive whenever they're hired, right? Let's say we have these data for different positions. You have assistant, forklift driver, market analyst, planner, all those different jobs they have different files they need to receive whenever someone is hired. Let's say like they could be just from I-9 to W-2 forms, like all that stuff that you need to send an email, communicate with their manager, and kind of give them like a welcoming email, right? And this needs to be dynamic. So as you can see, this is the main automation platform. And this is just a very simple code. But let's see like what it does when we actually run this. So again, I'm just clicking run. And what's going to happen, a pop-up window will come up. And it's going to ask, what is the new hire's email address, right? It's just going to say, enter the email address of new employee. Okay, well, I'm going to go ahead and add my email address here. And then it's going to ask, what is the manager's email address? So in this case, I'm going to put John's email address. And then it's going to ask, what is the role? So I'm just going to pick forklift driver in that example. And then it's just going to unzip all those files and send out an email to you. So it's just going to say the bot ran successful. And what it looks like is just this example. And then you're going to have congratulating with the role and all the necessary files that are required. And you can run this for different positions, different files, different messages for different positions as well. And this way, we'll be able to include the manager and us, and it's a very quick solution. But I just want to emphasize the ease of use of the tool and how it can actually impact processes beyond HR. So of course, we can talk about like employee onboarding, candidate search, and whatnot. But this tool can actually give the freedom for high turnover positions. It can enable you to track your actions and follow what's happening. So here in this automation tab, when we create a new bot, we can literally just make it follow your actions and create automation for your own tasks. So let's say we have just a simple page that I'm going to do a search, right? And if I click here and start recording, it will take over my computer and track whatever actions that I'm doing. So it will allow you to automate your own job and kind of get rid of those like mundane tasks, having you maybe get bored with all that tasks that you don't want to do in repetition. So here, with the recorder, it will allow me to go around and read the elements of this page, as you can see, and kind of create code around it. So let's say if I'm supposed to click here, as you can see on the right bottom, it follows, and it's just going to generate the code for it. Or if I need to type and search for something, and let's say like hello, and then if I click finish, it's just going to go ahead and create the necessary code. So this is especially useful for high turnover positions that requires mundane tasks and empower your employees, kind of get them to focusing on things that are value adding to them and to your company and organizations. But as I said, opportunities are endless in this case, and HR onboarding is one of the use cases that we see quite frequently. And just to show it again, how things can be done in a very simple code in a way that you can interact as an HR specialist and enter the necessary details and have employees ready from the first go and make sure that they hit the ground running.
Hey, Dokkan, we did have a question come in actually when you were going through this use case. With this example, or is it possible through RPA to have the bot or solution just automatically kick off in terms of a larger workflow? So this person was saying, like, within our HCM system, once there's a notification that Michael is, the new employee starting, could everything just kind of flow from there versus having to interact as you did?
Absolutely. So in this example, I don't want to go too technical, but you can see a small section that says triggers here. So here in that example, I just manually clicked and started automation, but we can put conditions here. Let's say if there's an email coming in saying that an employee is hired. So the bot can monitor that email inbox on its own and kind of kick off things on its own too. So let's say this is very useful for receiving applications. Let's say you receive an application, your inbox came in saying that received a resume. The bot can kick off, take the details from the email, and do whatever you ask the bot to do. So in that way, this trigger section will allow you to fully automate, bot to take over, depending on the conditions. Maybe it's a file existing or email or any other thing that you want bot to check and say, okay, this is my go sign.
Sure. Okay, that makes sense. Is there any other, I guess, examples or things that you've seen, Dokkan, with any of your clients in terms of other kind of common HR use cases? Like I would imagine for organizations that maybe require, drug testing or a background check, and that's with a, third party, if you will, that would be a easy automation to build out on a weekly basis or something, to go to that third party site, log in, and send the reports to the HR director or something like that. But
exactly. One thing that we do is like routine report bursting. So let's say you need to grab a data from like a exterior website or database, then just routinely send out email to HR managers or department, like division managers. That's something that we can implement very easily. And that's one of the use cases that we see quite frequently. But the idea is automation is your digital assistant. So it's replicating your actions, and whatever you can ask a person to do it, we can pretty much replicate it. So if it's pulling data, checking for a condition, and sending out an email, that's something that can be automated quite easily. One of the examples that you mentioned, John, earlier is like following up with candidates. The bot can easily monitor inboxes and kind of check when was the last time that we connected with this candidate, and send out a note or send you a note for you to follow up. So the idea is like it's a digital assistant to help you out and make sure that you're focusing on what matters. And as much as you want to be involved in running the bot, that is completely up to you. Connecting back to earlier question, if you want bot to start things on its own, send out email, update folders, great. But if you want to be involved and kind of you start kicking things off, or you want bot to ask you questions in that like HR employee onboarding case that you need to enter the email addresses and the roles, that's perfectly fine too. So it is just like that digital workforce that can help you, guide you, and make your life easier.
Sure. And I guess on that note, Dokan, just with your kind of comment just now on having to follow up with candidates, maybe, if we have, as an organization, make the decision that we want correspondence going, every 48, 72 hours, whatever the case may be. That triggered another thought for me is, and I know we've done something similar, not directly maybe related to it, but around like having to reschedule interviews or coordinating calendars for multiple different people. Maybe it's someone from HR, the hiring manager, and an executive who we all know calendars can get crazy. So have you seen a similar use case or done something like that where RPA helps coordinate calendars and update invites, all of that sort of thing as well?
Yeah, definitely. I will be reiterating what I said earlier, but let's see you're in that position. You need to coordinate calendars and you need to find empty time. How do you do it? You go to Outlook, make sure like everyone's calendar is empty. It's a lot of tedious manual work. The bot will do the exact same. It will replicate your own actions, but it's just going to do it on the side, so you know that it will be picking the right time. So essentially, it is just removing that like annoying task that we all want to get rid of and making sure the bot does it. And it is repetitive, it is structured. And finding like empty times in the interview scheduling, that's one of the use cases that we've seen, especially like creating invite links and emailing those out and sending reminders too. So the bot can create like calendar events and follow up with you on the timeline that you decide. So essentially, if it's a task that you're currently doing manually, it can be automated. What the bot needs is just a structure and a clear decision mechanism. So the bot can know, if this happens, I'm going to do this. And scheduling interviews is a great example, because bot can take a look at the availability of every party that you want to involve. And if there's no time available, it can send you an email saying that I couldn't find available time. Then maybe you need to reach out to everyone to coordinate. So our goal is to do the chore, like 80%, 90% of the chore, and leave you the 10, 20% exception handling, where you need to go and take actions on your own.
Got it. Oh, that's awesome. thank you again to everyone submitting those questions here. So let's keep moving. So should have just shared my screen again. Dokan's that look good? No user error there. Awesome. So, as we were talking about here and some of the examples that we looked at is we always like to show this matrix and focus in on the upper left quadrant there of identifying that best zone to start with. Again, usually that's processes that are low complexity, meaning that it's one or two systems that maybe we're interacting with. We're having to do the process multiple times a day. It's either very error prone or often causes delays. That's the best place to start with and for automation. Then as you grow and mature, we start to want to enable the end users. So that would be like a recruiter or talent acquisition person, just to kind of stick in that area of the job posting is if we can enable and train them to execute on quick wins and continue to make their life more efficient and effective as the organization evolves, that's absolutely terrific and perfect for automations. Then we leave our IT counterparts or HR system admins, if you will, those advanced users to help troubleshoot, maybe be the first line or two of support and build out maybe those more complex use cases as the organization matures. And we always want to make sure that we stay away from that no-go zone as well, where either there's not enough value or the process is too complex that it just doesn't make sense. Think of it, to use the cliche, the juice isn't worth the squeeze in that case based on what the scenario. So that's how we always evaluate and advise our clients. The absolute worst thing that we've seen organizations do on their automation journey is starting with a process that's either too complex and or too not enough ROI to start that it's worth it. And that just creates a bad feeling and vibe internally as the organization matures, and then automation is really kind of written off, and you have quite a hurdle to overcome there. So we always want to try to identify that best zone as best as we can, but also realize that things are a journey. And so in the first 0 to 3 months or a few weeks, we want to be executing on those quick wins. Maybe that's looking at when we do a job posting as we looked at, or having to aggregate data, or collaborating with our finance counterparts on workforce planning for the organization and in the upcoming year. Executing on those quick wins, showing the benefit and regaining the ROI on the investment, which is by no means steep or even necessarily near a full-time employee and what that would cost. Let's show those wins and success early. Then let's look to stand up a larger, broader governance sort of model, or seeing human resources become that strategic advisor to other areas of the business, finance, sales, operations, et cetera. And then longer term, looking at how does that really expand across the entire organization, and what sort of IT support and buy-in do we really need? So it's not something that you have to eat the whale in one day or build Rome overnight. It is a journey and evolution that we see the most successful organizations go on, and it's very iterative and agile as well.
Just to add on John's note, From that quick win stage, from the first 3 months, we generally see automation kind of expanding between different departments. What starts in HR generally expands to finance and accounting. From there, it goes to operations. So it's generally like enterprise level acceptance once we can show that quick wins and like see how it can make people's life easier. But besides just like finding ROI and like saving time, it really improves employee morale as well. Giving the tool to the business users and say, yes, you don't need to go through Excel and just to check the data and manually fix things. We have a bot for this. It really enhances the overall performance and excitement towards working at your company as well. So what starts as like a quick solution generally expands to be a journey and lifting your organization holistically, giving that enablement and empowerment to everyone that is partaking in that effort.
Oh, great point, Dokkan. So we'll hang out for a few more minutes here, but we hope you all have enjoyed the discussion and you're able to join us again. We do have several upcoming events as well. So actually going back to the Hearth and Home H&I example, they're also looking at how do we layer in predictive modeling and intelligent automation with like business data science getting predictive. So that's actually an upcoming event that we have on that topic. A couple of user groups in Chicago and the Minneapolis area in July as well. But if you're happy or interested in reaching out, want to discuss further, we're of course happy to chat. My information's listed on the screen, and of course you can find us through ecapitaladvisors.com as well, and just reach out through the website. So definitely appreciate everyone's time. We will stick on for a couple more minutes if there are any questions, but thank you to everyone who joined us today.